Italy. The cobblestone piazzas. The church bells echoing across terracotta rooftops. Espresso served in cups no bigger than a thimble. Family dinners that stretch past midnight with no one in any hurry to leave. It is a way of life that millions of us have fallen in love with. But here's what most people do not realize. You do not have to cross the Atlantic to find it. Between 1880 and 1920, over 4 million Italians emigrated to the United States. They did not just bring suitcases, they carried entire villages with them. The recipes, the dialects, the Saints' Day festivals, the way of life. We are talking about a town where 95% of the population descends from a single Italian village. A grape festival in Arkansas that has been running for over 126 years. A neighborhood that produced two baseball legends who grew up on the same street. And a community whose health baffled American doctors for decades. Hit that subscribe button and let us begin. Number 7. Tontitown, Arkansas. Population 4,301. Tucked into the foothills of the Ozark Mountains. This is not where you would expect to find a little Italy. But that is exactly what makes the story so extraordinary. In 1895, a group of Italian farming families left their homeland and ended up at Sunnyside Plantation in southeast Arkansas. Conditions were brutal. Malaria tore through the settlement. People were dying. A Catholic priest named Father Pietro Bondini knew he had to get his people out. He scouted the Ozark Mountains and found land that reminded the immigrants of northern Italy, the valleys, the clear springs, the climate. In 1898, roughly 40 families followed him north. They named their settlement Tontitown after Henri de Tonti, the Italian explorer who had mapped the Mississippi Valley in the 1680s. That first winter was harsh. The men traveled to Oklahoma coal mines to earn money, while the women and children scraped by on the land, surviving on rabbits and whatever they could grow. But when spring came, they did what they knew best. They farmed vegetables, strawberries, and above all, grapes. The hillsides proved perfect. By 1922, the Welch Company built a juice processing plant nearby. That fall of 1899, the settlers celebrated their first harvest with a picnic on the grounds of St. Joseph's Church. That celebration never stopped. The Tontitown Grape Festival has now run for over 126 years. Every August, volunteers prepare 3,500 pounds of fresh spaghetti by hand. A bronze statue of an Italian immigrant stands outside City Hall. Father Pietro Bondini is buried right there in Tontitown. An Italian colony in the Ozark Mountains is surprising enough. But the next place is not just Italian. It is officially one of the most Italian towns in America. Number 6. Hammonton, New Jersey. Halfway between Philadelphia and Atlantic City, signs on the road announce the blueberry capital of the world. What they do not mention is that nearly 46% of the 14,700 residents claim Italian ancestry, one of the highest percentages for any town in the United States. It all traces back to one man, Salvador Calabrese, a Sicilian immigrant who settled here in 1863. He wrote letters home to the village of Gesso in Sicily. Within years, most of Gesso had relocated to Hammonton. Italian laborers brought from Philadelphia to harvest crops began buying land and sending for their families. By 1920, Italian surnames made up more than 60% of the population. Today, over 7,500 acres of blueberry farms produce 80% of New Jersey's output. But the real treasure is the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Festival, running since 1875. That makes it the oldest continuously running Italian festival in the United States. More than 100,000 visitors attend each year. 3 wineries operate in town. And at Christmas time, Bogliana's Market sells 2,800 pounds of provolone cheese shaped like 10-foot torpedoes. In Hammonton, provolone outsells everything. A town where half the population shares Sicilian roots is remarkable. But the next neighborhood produced two of America's most famous baseball players, and they grew up directly across the street from each other. Number 5. The Hill, St. Louis, Missouri. A small residential neighborhood south of Forest Park. From the outside, it looks like any other blue-collar American street. But the fire hydrants are painted green, white, and red, the colors of the Italian flag. Italians arrived here in the 1880s from Lombardy and Sicily, drawn by jobs in the clay mines. The parish of St. Ambrose was founded in 1903. When the church was rebuilt in 1926, it was modeled directly after Sant'Ambrogio in Milan. The immigrants wanted their church to look exactly like the one they had left behind. Roughly 3/4 of residents are still Italian American. Homes are rarely listed on the open market. They are passed along through families or sold quietly within the community. It is how the Hill has stayed Italian for over a century. 2 bocce gardens still operate in the neighborhood, and you can hear the click of the balls on gravel any afternoon of the week. Baseball great Yogi Berra grew up on Elizabeth Avenue. Joe Garagiola grew up directly across the street. Their boyhood homes still face each other, and 4 of the 5 St. Louis players who defeated England in the 1950 World Cup came from these very streets. All of that comes from a few square blocks of Italian brick houses in Missouri. A neighborhood that sells homes by word of mouth is extraordinary. But the next place takes Italian loyalty even further, with a bronze pine cone the size of a car hanging over the main road. Number 4. Federal Hill, Providence, Rhode Island. Rhode Island has the highest percentage of Italian Americans of any state in the nation. And Federal Hill is where that heritage comes to life. Italian immigrants arrived from southern Italy in the 1870s. By 1895, the neighborhood was split between Irish and Italian settlers fighting for jobs. The Italians gradually became dominant. Today, Atwell's Avenue is the beating heart of the community. The center median is painted in the Italian tricolor instead of yellow lines. At the entrance stands a gateway arch with La Pina hanging from its center, a giant bronze pine cone. In Italian tradition, it is a symbol of welcome and abundance. Beyond the arch sits De Pasquale Plaza, a European-style square with a grand fountain and outdoor dining that feels transplanted from Rome. Angelo's Civita Farnese has been serving meatballs here since 1924. 4 generations of the same family are still cooking. The Columbus Day Parade still marches down Atwell's Avenue every year, past the hiss of espresso machines and the smell of fresh bread drifting from bakery doorways. A road painted in the Italian flag is a bold statement, but the next neighborhood was once so packed with Italians it was more crowded than Calcutta. Number 3. The North End, Boston, Massachusetts. Boston's oldest neighborhood, less than 1 square mile. The first Italians arrived in the 1860s from Genoa, then the Campanians, then the Sicilians, the Avellanese, the Neapolitans. By 1905, 22,000 of the 27,000 residents were Italian. By 1930, the figure was 44,000. 44,000 Italians in less than a square mile, one of the most densely populated places on Earth. At its peak, the North End had 28 Italian physicians, 6 dentists, 8 funeral homes, and 5 barbershops on a single block of Hanover Street. St. Leonard's Church, completed in 1899, became the first Italian Catholic church in Massachusetts. Today, over 80 restaurants and bakeries line the narrow streets. Mike's Pastry and Modern Pastry, legendary rival cannoli shops, draw queues around the block. Unlike Manhattan's Little Italy, which has shrunk to a tourist strip, Boston's North End has retained genuine authenticity. Italian Americans still make up over 41% of the population. Statues of saints are carried shoulder high through the streets every summer, exactly as they were a century ago. A neighborhood once more crowded than Calcutta, yet with almost no street crime, is astonishing. But the next place will surprise you. The real Little Italy is not where tourists think it is. Number 2. Arthur Avenue, the Belmont section of the Bronx, New York City. While millions of tourists queue on Mulberry Street in Manhattan, the actual Italian Americans are here, on Arthur Avenue, where nothing has been polished for outsiders. Italians settled this part of the Bronx from the late 1800s, drawn by construction jobs building the Bronx Zoo and the New York Botanical Garden. They stayed. The Arthur Avenue Retail Market was built in the 1940s under Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, himself of Italian descent. Calandra's Cheese, Mike's Deli, Teitel Brothers. These are not tourist attractions. They are institutions where the butcher still knows your grandmother's maiden name. Wheels of aged provolone hang from the ceiling. Sausages dangle from hooks. Old women sit on front stoops watching the world go by. Italian is still spoken between stall holders at the morning market. Every August, the community holds the Ferragosto Festival, celebrating the Feast of the Assumption with street processions and tables of food stretching down the pavement. If you want to know what an Italian neighborhood felt like 50 years ago, this is the last place in New York where you can find it. A neighborhood where families have tended the same counters for 4 generations is beautiful. But our number 1 town holds a secret that baffled the American medical establishment for decades. And it may change the way you think about what truly keeps people alive. Number 1. Roseto, Pennsylvania. A tiny borough of 1,581 people in the Lehigh Valley. Modest houses pressed close together. Grapevines in every back garden. A quiet church. It looks like nothing special. But what happened here rewrote the medical textbooks. In 1882, a group of men left Roseto Valfortore, a village near Foggia in the Puglia region of southern Italy. They found work in the slate quarries of Bangor, Pennsylvania. More families followed. They named their settlement Roseto. It means rose garden in Italian. By the 1970s, 95% of the borough's 1,600 inhabitants were still direct descendants of that one village. They planted gardens in every yard. They raised pigs. They grew grapes for homemade wine. For decades, only the Foggian dialect was spoken. It was a world within a world. In 1961, a local doctor mentioned something extraordinary to a visiting physician named Stuart Wolfe. In 17 years of practice, he had rarely found anyone in Roseto under 65 with heart disease. Wolfe investigated. What he found stunned the medical world. Between 1955 and 1961, there were virtually no heart attacks among men under 55. The death rate from heart disease for men over 65 was half the national average. There was no suicide, no drug addiction, almost no crime. But here is what baffled everyone. The Rosetans were not healthy by any standard. They cooked in lard. They smoked. 41% of their calories came from fat. They did not exercise. The neighboring town of Bangor, just over a mile away, shared the same water, the same doctors, the same hospital. Bangor had heart disease rates like the rest of America. Roseto did not. The answer was not diet. It was not genetics. It was community. 3 generations under the same roof. Neighbors cooking for each other. No one flaunting success. No one left to struggle alone. 22 civic organizations in a borough of 2,000 people. People walked together in the evenings. They stopped and talked on every porch. They knew every face on every street. The simple act of belonging to each other was keeping them alive. It became known as the Roseto effect. Malcolm Gladwell wrote about it in Outliers. Researchers compared it to the blue zones of Sardinia and Okinawa, where the longest-lived people on Earth share the same thing: deep, unbreakable bonds. But when researchers returned decades later, the younger generation had moved away. The multi-generational households had broken apart. The evening walks stopped. The bonds had loosened. And the heart disease rates in Roseto rose to match every other town in America. The protection was gone. The community that had kept them alive had quietly dissolved, and with it went the miracle. If you like this video, please subscribe, and make sure to watch the next video appearing on the screen.